So these kids in my neighborhood think that they can get away with all the little stunts that they've been pulling. Well, guess what? The joke's about to be on them, because I'm going to catch them red-handed, thanks to some hefty cameras that I just purchased on Amazon, and they'll be here in the morning. Hey guys, I'm 33 and male, and I've moved into this charming suburban neighborhood a few months back. I've been working in IT for a decade now, and while it's not glamorous always, it did afford me a dream house. I finally made my nest in a serene environment away from the busy, bustling city life. I mostly work from home, which means I get to watch the neighborhood come alive with every sunrise. Now, I'm not an old man yells at cloud kind of guy, but my transition into this community was not as smooth as I expected. The neighborhood kids play a lot of street sports, and it's actually a refreshing sight. Seeing them out and about instead of glued to the computer screens or their video games. Fast forward to last week. I was on my way to the store, and as I approached my car, I noticed a glaring dent on the driver's side window. It was not there before. I glanced around for clues, and my eyes landed on a group of kids engrossed in a game of street basketball. The dent on my door strangely matched the size of a basketball. I connected the dots, and I cautiously approached the group. Hey guys, not to be a buzzkill, but did any of you happen to hit my car with your ball? The immediate silence was in the air, and the bouncing ball seized its rhythm. The younger ones exchanged nervous glances, while the older kids stepped with a definite glare that said, "No, we don't know anything about that, sir. What would you assume it was us for?" Honestly, I was taken back, and I just replied with, "Well, I just thought because it looks similar to a basketball size, and you guys are right here playing, but I'm sorry if I'm mistaken." I backed off, not wanting to escalate things. The air was thick with tension as the younger ones whispered amongst themselves. On my drive to the store, my mind raced. The dent would not have appeared out of thin air, and their reaction just made me even more suspicious. I mean, if they have not done it, why not just say so? Confidently. But here's the thing, I don't want to be that guy. The new neighbor who accuses the kids of mischief without proof. I want to have a good rapport with everybody, including these kids. Accusing them without concrete evidence would make me seem hostile. I don't want to be the antagonist. When I returned from the store, a middle-aged woman from a few houses down approached me. She had a concerned look on her face, and she said, "Hey, I'm Lisa. I overheard your chat with the kids earlier. Just wanted to let you know sometimes these kids can be a handful. My rose bushes were tampered with a couple of times, but you know kids. They don't always realize the consequence of their actions." Well, I nodded, grateful for the olive branch. "I get that," I said. "I used to be a kid once, after all. I just wish that they would own up to it." It's tricky. Maybe give it some time. They might come around." We parted ways, and I went inside wondering if and when I'd get an apology or even an acknowledgement. My car can be fixed, sure, but trust and relationship, those take time. I genuinely want to be a good neighbor. What would you guys do? Update number 1. Hey everyone, first thank you for the advice and feedback from my first post. I've been spending these past few weeks keeping a low profile and trying to avoid any unnecessary confrontations with the neighborhood kids. However, things have taken a bit of a turn. To start, I went ahead and got the dent of my car fixed. Cost me a pretty penny out of pocket, but I thought it was a small price to pay for a peace of mind. Instead of parking on the street, I decided to clear out my garage, so I would not have to worry about more mysterious incidents. It was a day-long endeavor, but I thought it was worth the effort. Come evening, after a day of hard work, I treated myself to a homemade dinner. Pan-seared chicken with vegetables. But as I was preparing the dish, I was interrupted by a loud knock on my door. I thought it might be a neighbor, or perhaps even one of the kids coming forward about the dent. However, I opened the door and I was greeted by nothing, just the dark. Quiet. Neighborhood. I chalked it up as maybe a missed door knock or somebody passing by and went back to my cooking. But no sooner had I set the pan back on the stove, another loud knock sounded. This time I bolted to the door, flung it open, and once again nothing. But as I stepped out to the lawn, I could hear distant, stifled giggles. The scene was eerily familiar, reminding me of the previous incident with the suspected basketball Dent. "It was funny, guys! Please stop!" I shouted into the shadows, hoping to appeal to their sense of decency. But as I turned back to the kitchen, the delicious aroma had transformed into the acrid scent of burning food. My dinner, which I had been looking forward to, was ruined, and my frustration reached its peak. When, for the third time, there was yet another loud knock. This time I did not even bother to answer. It became clear to me I was being targeted. First the unexplained Dent, and now this. It felt like something out of a cheesy horror flick, but it was my life right now. That night, sleep evaded me. I kept mulling over the events, and an idea began to form. I needed evidence. A quick search on Amazon, and I had a cart full of outdoor cameras. They were discreet enough to not draw attention, but would capture everything happening around my home. The constant unease, the feeling of being watched, targeted, pranked, it was getting to me. My dream home felt more like a house of cards, ready to crumble with the next knock or chuckle. I'm at my wit's end and could use some advice. Note, update coming soon. Thanks for bearing with me through this ordeal. I will catch these brats. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's me again. It's been a crazy month since I've last updated you. I appreciate all the advice and feedback from my previous post about the pranks and security cameras. Well, I have some significant updates. I spent a fair chunk of money on state-of-the-art security cameras, making sure they were discreetly installed around my property. For a while, I was pleasantly surprised. No more pranks, no more feeling of being a target, and for weeks I enjoyed the peace thinking that the storm had passed. But boy, I was wrong. One morning, as I prepared to head into the office, a rarity, I flung open my front door to a scene straight out of a high school comedy movie. My entire property was TP'd. I'm talking toilet paper. Rolls and rolls of toilet paper covering the trees, the front of my house and my well-manicured lawn. The white trails hung from the branches, and in some areas the paper had become a matted mess from the morning dew. To make matters worse, some strands were high up out of my reach. I could feel the heat rising in my face, not from anger but straight up embarrassment. I had important virtual meetings that day and could not cancel. After hurriedly cleaning what I could, I had to leave the rest of the mess in the chaotic state that it was. Once at work, I used my phone to access the security camera recordings from the previous night, and there it was, crystal clear as day. Footage of the culprits in action. At midnight, the screens illuminated the familiar faces of the kid from my neighborhood, the very same ones I suspected from the start. The ringleader seemed to be the older boy from the basketball incident, accompanied by 3 other accomplices. My heart pounded as I watched the playback, and all those moments of doubt, the feelings of paranoia, they were justified. It was them. Now here's where I'm torn. With concrete evidence in hand, I'm faced with a choice. Do I approach the parents, revealing the mischief of their children, or do I attempt to handle this matter myself? In hopes of reaching a resolution with the kids directly, I remember my mischievous days as a teenager, but this felt different. This was not just harmless fun, it was a consistent targeting of almost relentless vendetta against me. Why? Had I inadvertently wronged them in some way I wasn't aware of? My evening was consumed by this moral dilemma, so I oscillated between confrontation and seeking revenge. While a small, vengeful part of me contemplated a payback prank, the mature side of me argued for a more measured approach. But whatever I decide, this cycle needs to end now. Final update. First of all, thank you for sticking with me through this headache of events. When I initially shared my story, I never imagined it would escalate to such dramatic proportions. Here's the latest and possibly the last chapter. I took many of your advices to heart, and after much deliberation, I mustered up the courage to confront the parents of the ringleader. Armed with the video evidence from the TP incident, I was nervous, not knowing how they would react. To my surprise, they welcomed me warmly. When I explained my ordeal, their expressions changed from warm greetings to ones of disbelief.
And as I played the footage, the mother's face contorted in shock while the father's jaw set firm. The mother seemed truly taken back, shaking her head in bewilderment. "Our boy? At 16 doing this? I can't believe it." Her voice quivering, revealing a mixture of disappointment and frustration. However, the father, his reaction was more visceral. He called for his son, who appeared with a casual stride. But his relaxed demeanor changed the moment we laid eyes on each other, and the footage that was playing, the blood drained from his face. "You're busted, pal," his father growled, pointing at the screen. "Look at this and tell me what you were thinking." I'm sorry, it was stupid." The mother intervened. "We've just bought you a used vehicle because we thought you were responsible enough, but after seeing this, I'm going to sell it, Junior." The boy's eye was widened in horror, and in that instant he looked just like the child he once was, tears filling his eyes, and he darted upstairs for his room. The room was full of heavy silence, broken only by a muffled sob from upstairs, and I felt guilty. My intent was never to escalate the punishment to such extent of selling his vehicle. I just wanted the pranks to stop. Trying to defuse the situation, I said, "Look, kids make mistakes. We've all been here. Maybe taking away his car, though, and selling it is a bit much." The mother looked at me, her face flushed, and she said, "He needs to learn a lesson, but thank you for letting us know." I left their house with a heavy heart. While I felt vindicated on one hand, a nagging cloud of dust over my other. Did I overstep? Anyways, I would like to know your thoughts on this. Guys, thank you for sticking with me on this wild ride. Let me know down below if you've ever had any issues in your neighborhood. Comment number 1 from the original. "Man, I had a similar run-in with my neighborhood kids a while back. Caught them on camera damaging my fence and stealing fruits from my trees. Took the footage straight to their school, and lo and behold, they were all identified and got the school discipline that they deserved. Definitely not the a-hole, OP. You've got every right to defend yourself and property, and it did seem like they were specifically targeting you for some reason." Comment number 2. "Honestly, I didn't really see anyone as the outright a-hole. OP, you could not have predicted the parents' reaction, and you did what you thought was right. The kid was just indulging in some childish antics. Annoying, yes. Malicious, doesn't seem like it. The only person maybe leaning towards the a-hole side could be the mother, for such an over-the-top reaction, but parenting is tough, and everybody has their solid line in the sand. Not the a-hole." "Honestly," says comment 3, "I was taken aback by the mom's reaction. Taking away a car for some petty prank seems extreme. Yeah, the prank was a nuisance, but to revoke such a big gift feels harsh. OP, I don't blame you for wanting to address the situation. It's just unfortunate it led to such severe consequences for the kid."
So I do agree with most of the comments on story number 1 of the day. I don't think OP was in the wrong. OP was just exposing the kids for what they've done. OP was not the mother who took the car away. If anybody overreacted or could be considered the a-hole, it has to be the kids from the neighborhood or the mother who took away the car. Let me know your thoughts though. Maybe you guys don't agree and you think that, well, OP is the a-hole. Drop your opinions down below and let's discuss it. Now we're going to look at story number 2 on the day, and the title is this. OP, well, am I the a-hole for playing pranks on my strict math teacher? When something escalated and something really bad happened, let's jump into that story right now.
Hey guys, I'm not sure if this is the right place to post this, but I really need to vent and get some advice. I'm 16 and a sophomore in high school. I recently moved to this town because of my family and my dad getting a new job, and well, this whole semester has been a mess. To give a bit of context, I've always been the quiet kid. At my previous schools, I kept to myself, and although I had a few friends, I mostly tried to fly under the radar. When I moved to this new town a few months ago, every face was unfamiliar. Imagine starting at a school when you don't know a single person. That's been my reality. The first couple of periods are uneventful. Nobody really speaks to me, and I haven't really made an effort to speak to them. But Things started to look up during my third period biology class. When I met a friend named Jeremy, it was a simple interaction. He needed a pencil and I lent him one. It's funny how something so minor can lead to a budding friendship. We even discovered we shared the same fourth period lunch. At lunch, we sit with Doug, another student, and while we aren't that close, he's pretty chill. I'm really glad I met at least 2 friends in this unfamiliar environment. But here's where things get complicated and why I really need your opinion. My 5th period math class with Miss Belanca is a nightmare. I've always been decent at math and I don't mind the subject, but Miss Belanca seems to have it out for me. Maybe it's because I sit at the back or because I'm overly vocal in class, but she always picks on me. And it's not just the normal, "Hey, answer this question" type of picking. It's a belittling way. For example, the other day she posed a particularly challenging question to the class. Nobody raised their hand, which is not unusual, but instead of explaining the solution or asking a student who generally participates a lot, she turned to me, smirked, and said, "Since you seem to be daydreaming and not paying attention, perhaps you can enlighten us with the answer." Well, I was mortified. I tried to mumble something, but she cut me off. "Well, that's what I thought," she sneered. It felt like every class with her is a new opportunity for her to embarrass me in front of my peers. I've always been a quiet kid, but this feels like bullying. And while Jeremy and Doug are supportive, when I rant about her during lunch, they haven't experienced her wrath firsthand, so they can't truly understand exactly how I feel. I dread going to math class every day. Every time the bell rings, signaling the start of 5th period, my anxiety shoots through the roof, anticipating what new way Miss Blanca will find to target me. I know I'm not your average teenager. I'm strange. I get social anxiety, and I'm not expected to be popular or anything, but is it too much to ask to not constantly be berated by a teacher? Update number 1, 2 weeks later. Guys, let me tell you, things have spiraled in ways I could not have imagined. I talked to Jeremy and Doug about the horrors of Miss Blanca's class again and explained to them the latest ordeal. They're both blessed with a different math teacher, and every time we converse about her antics, they express gratitude for not being in my position. I filled them in on the group project Miss Blanca assigned last week. The project itself was not particularly hard, but the people I was grouped with, 3 of the most notorious slackers in the entire class. I've always been the type to get my part done, no matter what. And true to form, I completed most of my section within days, but I can't say the same for my group members. Every time we had a group meeting, it consisted of them going goofing off, while I attempted to organize tasks and get some semblance of progress. Projects count as a big part of our overall grade, and I was growing more and more anxious as the deadline neared, and their contributions were nowhere in sight. Jeremy, ever the voice of reason, suggested I talk to Miss Blanca about the situation. His logic was that if she knew I was actively participating and the others weren't, she might grade us individually. I was hesitant, remembering my past interactions with her, but I figured, what did I have to lose? So, with a mixture of anxiety and determination, I approached Miss Blanca's desk before the 5th period started. From her expression, it was evident that her day had been taxing. Maybe it was the previous class, or maybe she was just in one of her moods. Still, I cleared my throat and began explaining my situation. My efforts on the project, my concerns about the group, and my fear of receiving a poor grade due to their lack of input. She listened, or so I thought, and then hit me with a response I was not expecting. "It's your responsibility to ensure everybody in your group contributes. If they're not working, make them. It's a group assignment for a reason. You can't simply decide to work on it by yourself." She said it with a condescending tone, and as students were still entering the classroom, ensuring a few of them overheard. I was shocked, and before I could even react, she made an announcement to the class. "It seems some students," her eyes darting to me, "feel that the group is not pulling their weight. Let me remind you, everybody, this is a group project. If only one person is doing the work, then the effort will reflect in your group grade. The three slackers turned to look at me with their expressions a blend of betrayal and shock. I could have sunken to the floor. Not only had Miss Blanca refused my request, but she also essentially threw me under the bus, making the rest of the group meetings more awkward than I ever imagined. Needless to say, I'm livid. The way she handled the situation was only intensified, with the weird group dynamics making it even harder for me to get any cooperation. I want some form of retribution for this unnecessary mess that she created, but for now I'm just trying to navigate the group project without jeopardizing my grade. I feel like I'm stuck in a bad drama show. Update number 2. Guys, it's been 3 weeks since my last post, and it's been a whirlwind. Let me break it down for you. First, the aftermath of the dreaded group project, I received a C-. Can you believe that? My portion was immaculate, no errors, clear explanations, and you could tell effort was put into it. Yet, because half the group decided to wing it and neglect showing their work, Miss Blanca slashed our creative collective grade. I told Jeremy and Doug about this fiasco, and let's just say they were shocked. And I quote, "It's like she's purposely punishing you for their slack, bro." Doug just sighed and said, "Man, group projects are the worst." It was a sentiment that we all echoed. They mentioned that they were about to start group projects in their math classes, and we joked about the potential pitfalls and terrible group members they could get. I made them promise not to get saddled with duds like I did, and we had a good chuckle. But then Doug, with a mischievous glint in his eye, said, "If Miss Blanca's gonna make life hard for you, maybe you should return the favor, dude." I raised an eyebrow. Intrigued, Jeremy caught on and suggested low-key pranks. Nothing harmful, just enough to rattle her. While it did sound tempting, I'd never actually played a prank before. Not on a teacher. But as we brainstormed and laughed over potential ideas, I felt a growing desire to get back at Miss Blanca, to shift the power dynamics even if just for a moment. On that day, feeling emboldened by our lunch conversation, I left 10 minutes early and slipped into Miss Blanca's classroom, before she returned from her break. My heart raced with adrenaline pumping as I quickly grabbed a Sharpie from her desk and scribbled all over her whiteboard. I capped the pen and darted out of the room and took refuge in the bathroom. I'd never felt such a mix of fear and excitement before. When the bell rang, I re-entered the classroom, trying hard and just to look nonchalant. The moment I saw Miss Blanca's reaction, it was pure gold. She tried to erase the board, but there it was, a Sharpie, and it would not budge. Her face turned various shades of red as her frustration grew, and the room was tense with suspense, and she finally exploded and said, Who did this?" Silence. The classroom was still as a graveyard. She stormed out, returning minutes later with another teacher, both looking clueless on how to clean the board. For the rest of the period, we were handing worksheets, while Miss Blanca tried in vain to clean her board. She was livid. Very, very livid, slamming books and snapping at students for the smallest infractions. I left school that day on an adrenaline high. I felt invincible, and as I laid in bed that night, I could not help but plot my next move. I knew I was playing with fire, but the thrill was too intoxicating to resist, and now that I've gotten one prank under my sleeve, I'm going to give her my entire arsenal. Update number 3. Hey guys, so it's been about a week since my last post, and things have taken a bit of a dramatic turn. Buckle up. After successfully executing the Sharpie prank, I felt the world was my oyster. Jeremy, Doug, and I shared a good laugh when I recounted Miss Blanca's reaction, and they were both amazed and egged me on with more prank ideas, and as days went by, we crafted a plan for a prank that in hindsight might have been a bit too far. Following the usual routine, I excused myself 2 minutes early from lunch and darted to Miss Blanca's classroom. My heart was racing and the adrenaline felt electric. I had with me a water bottle. My target? Miss Blanca's black cushioned desk chair. I quickly poured the contents over the seat, making sure it was absolutely soaked. I then fled the scene, feeling exhilarated, and upon returning to class, I noticed Miss Blanca intensely scrubbing at the whiteboard, trying to remove the last remnants of the Sharpie. Her stress was palpable. She barked at every student who entered the room, including me, and the room's tension was so thick. It was like fog. Then the moment of truth came. As she turned to sit in her chair, there was a split-second delay before she shrieked, jumping up instantly with her clothes being soaked, leaving her with a wet patch that looked both comical and pitiful. She exploded, furiously yelling at the class, demanding the culprit to confess. Nobody did, and in a fit of rage and I assume embarrassment, she stormed out of the classroom. We sat in stunned silence for a moment before the room erupted in laughter. Students whispering, speculating about what happened, and no one knew I was behind it. The next day, I filled Jeremy and Doug in on the details. We laughed so hard, tears streamed down our faces. But as we entered math class that day, a twist awaited us. Miss Blanca was not there. Instead, it was a substitute teacher, right there at the front, explaining that Miss Blanca had quit. And they were searching for a permanent replacement. The class was buzzing with gossip and speculation, and I sat there in shock. Did my prank push her over the edge? That evening, as I lied in my bed, feeling a bit heavy, settling into my chest, sure, she was a challenging teacher, but did she deserve to be, through this? I felt a bit of guilt. I got rid myself of a significant stressor, but at what cost? Had I made her already challenging life even more unbearable? On one hand, Miss Blanca had a pattern of being unnecessarily tough and seemed to take a particular dislike to me. But on the other hand, I had played a direct role in her decision to quit her job, affecting her livelihood and perhaps even her mental well-being. So, this is where I lay it out. Am I the a-hole for pulling these pranks on Miss Blanca, which ultimately led her to quit? I'd genuinely like to know. Comment number 1. I genuinely think OP went too far with those pranks. The first one was understandable given the heat of the moment, but to ride that high and continue pranking her was overboard. We never truly know what's happening in somebody's personal life, and for all we know, Miss Blanca might have been dealing with personal issues, which these pranks could have exasperated. Pushing somebody towards the edge, especially in a professional setting, is never okay. I feel for Miss Blanca and hope she's doing okay mentally. Sorry, OP, but you're the a-hole in this scenario for making her job unbearable. Comment number 2. LOL, I wish I was there to witness her shriek. Sounds like she was quite the character, honestly, given how she treated OP. Especially with that ridiculous group project grade, it seems like she had it coming. Perfect poetic justice, in my opinion. OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. Comment number 3. It baffles me why Miss Blanca would react so harshly to students. A teacher with such a short temper should probably reconsider their profession. It's educators like her that highlight the issues with our current school system. While I don't condone pranks, given her behavior, I can't fully blame the students for wanting some form of retaliation. Comment number 4. Honestly, OP, you should have taken a more mature approach to this. If you felt targeted by Miss Blanca, the first step should have been speaking to a counselor and possibly requesting a teacher change. And if that did not work, get your parents involved. But vandalizing her classroom and soaking her with water, that's just immature and disruptive. OP, you took matters too far into your own hands instead of seeking a proper resolution, so for that, you're the a-hole. And the final comment to wrap it up says, kudos to the OP for taking a stand. That entire group project situation is pure nonsense. And that grade was uncalled for. Also, the nerve of Miss Blanca to publicly call out OP in front of the group. She had the prank coming for her. Students have their way of serving justice, and this felt just right. Keep it up, OP. Definitely not the a-hole.
Yeah, you can argue OP could have gone to the counselor, could have told his parents, could have done a lot of things, but OP decided to take the matters into his own hands. So I can see why a lot of the commenters were saying that OP is the a-hole, but at the same time, the teacher has to take some blame too. I mean, from what OP was saying, it was obvious that OP was being picked on. Guys, I would like to know your exact thoughts about this. Maybe you've been through something similar when you were in school. Go ahead, drop your advice, your comments, your stories downstairs in our story comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate revenge stories every single day. This is Mr. Reddito's Revenge channel, where everything has some sort of revenge or karma attached to it. If you want more daily videos, go ahead, drop a subscribe down below. Don't forget to hit the bell notification icon as well so you get notified when I upload. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, there's a lot of revenge in the air, so it's cool to be kind. You can do it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.